Okay, let's cut to the chase. Rayleigh is a goddamn legendary character that is oozing charisma, authority, and mystery like treble does snort. A character that is respected by all and has been the main reason that Luffy is now able to challenge actual Yonko and is back on track to becoming Pirate King after the most traumatic moment in his life. And so, even though we actually don't know all too much about his past, I want to use this chance to not only discuss Rayleigh's character and his role in the story, but also delve a bit deeper into the classic trope of the mentor, and how, if used correctly, it can enhance the fabric of a story significantly. Oh yeah, and why the hell is he called the Dark King? This is the story of the Dark King, Silver's Rayleigh. First of all, can we all acknowledge just how fantastic Rayleigh's introduction was in the story? Out of all the great ones we've gotten, I'm thinking Kaido, Katakuri, or Imu, this might have actually been my favorite one. And by that, I mean the entire sequence. It's simply done fantastically, especially in the anime. There is no music, just the slave auctioneer suddenly collapsing. Then we just see this giant sitting there, and holy damn, this huge ass guy must have done something, right? But he turns around, calls out the old man sitting next to him for using something called haki, and then this. This is just the right way to reveal an epic character like this. That right there has a real shock effect. And the way that Rayleigh then enters the hall later, takes a look at the scene, deduces what happens before knocking out all the guards, how could you not be intrigued by this mysterious old man that we now know was the right hand of the Pirate King himself? Now, Rayleigh's name has actually two sources of inspiration. One is Sir Walter Rayleigh, an English 16th century explorer and privateer, and the other is a phenomenon known as Rayleigh scattering. Rayleigh scattering refers to the scattering of light off of the molecules in the air, thus changing its wavelength. For example, it's light hitting the molecules in our atmosphere that give us a blue sky. So Rayleigh literally scattering Kizaru's light attacks seems to be a science pun by Oda, I guess? Now, the silver in his name, of course, is a running theme within the Roger Pirates, with Gold Roger, Silver's Rayleigh, and Scopper Gaban. Personality-wise, as most of the former Roger pirates we've met so far, Roger, Shanks, Odin, and with the obvious exception of Buggy, Rayleigh is an extremely eccentric, charismatic, and joyful person that seems to be enjoying life to its fullest. And since the Roger pirates in many ways seem to have been quite similar to the Straw Hats in terms of their crew dynamics, it comes as no big surprise that Rayleigh gets along with all of them quite perfectly, and even more so, is immediately likable for us readers as well. After all, this guy has the exact same values and approach to life as our heroes, but more powerful, mature, and confident. And a detail that I personally found really interesting in this context is that Rayleigh as a character shares a lot of characteristics with both Zoro and Sanji. Now, hear me out. Just like Zoro, Rayleigh is the first mate of the Roger Pirates, the right hand of the Pirate King, and the first person recruited. Both are powerful swordsmen that are only second to their captain in terms of strength. And just like Zoro, Rayleigh also has a scar above his eye, has a bit of an alcohol problem, and just as Zoro manages to get lost a lot, Rayleigh seems to have a tendency to get shipwrecked, as happens on his way to Amazon Lily and after Roger's death, where he is saved by Hachi. And of course, both of them seem to enjoy a good battle. Now, on the other hand, just like Sanji, the first thing Rayleigh says is how much he loves women. Before showing us his swordman skills, he actually stops Kizaru with a quite Sanji-esque kick. Also, as we see in the auction house, he shares Sanji's cunningness and tendency to go on small infiltration missions. In fact, he actually lets himself get captured on purpose to steal money from the slave auction that he had lost while gambling. Sanji and Zoro. No wonder you can't help but find this man absolutely awesome. Now, in terms of his role in the story, Rayleigh in many ways fits the archetypical trope of the mentor pretty much perfectly. The mentor typically is an experienced advisor and confidant for the protagonist that passes on his knowledge and wisdom so that people can live better lives and society in general can improve. This character, not always but very often, comes in the form of the wise old man or woman that is better skilled, faster, and more experienced than their student, and now pass these traits on to them. At this point in time, they might have grown too old or too fragile for the tasks or have their own job to do. Famous examples of this trope include Yoda in Star Wars, or Tony Stark in Avengers Endgame, or to go more into anime, Biscuit in Hunter x Hunter, or All Might in Boku no Hero. Their role is to introduce a new skill and or set of ideas and values, often hoping to pass the torch because they know that their role in the world is slowly coming to an end. And of course, most of the time, expect them to have the same elderly but powerful look associated with the Grandpa God. I think you will agree that Rayleigh hits this description pretty perfectly. Though compared to some other mentor figures, he doesn't have to die to get their disciple on their feet. We're talking Gandalf, Dumbledore, or Jiraiya here.
You fools. Please. Avada Kedavra.
For Luffy, this push is replaced by Ace's death. A small twist on the trope here. Now, what does this mentor role mean for his relationship with Luffy? Rayleigh is pretty much the closest thing that Luffy could ever get to being mentored by Roger himself. Rayleigh is a relic of the Pirate King's era, someone who is respected by everyone, even Marines like Garp or even Kizaru, who doesn't seem to have a lot of respect for anyone else. Now, based on the stories he's heard from Shanks, as well as his personal experience with Luffy, he believes him to be the man that Roger has been waiting for. In other words, the man he started the Great Pirate Era for in the first place. Luffy wears his former captain's hat, has a similar quirky crew, and most importantly, he has the exact same dream as Roger, though we as an audience still don't know what that dream is. And so I think it's no coincidence that Rayleigh thinks of Roger's last words after Luffy leaves. Luffy has literally inherited Roger's will, and thus Roger didn't die. Now, obviously, after the events at Sabaody and especially Marineford, Rayleigh is fully aware that Luffy won't be able to continue his journey into the New World at the level that he's currently at. And so, I'm not sure if you remember this, it's actually Rayleigh that proposes and sets up the time skip and decides to teach Luffy as much as he can in 2 years, so he actually has a chance against the monsters waiting in the New World. As a result, not only does he pass down his own knowledge and skills onto him, but also is the one to mentally help him recover from his trauma and rekindle his belief in himself and his ability to protect his crew. And yet, in the manner of any good mentor, despite being enormously strong and respected, Rayleigh's time is over. And the fact that despite someone as strong as him being around, the world still being as messed up as it is, also serves to show us just how powerful this system is and how difficult it is to actually change the world. Okay, so that's all nice and well, but let's talk about the elephant in the room. Why is this man called the Dark King? There have been a number of speculations about this, but there are two things here that I want to highlight. One is the actual meaning of the Japanese word Meo. If you watch too much anime, like I do, you might know the word Mao, which means demon king or the devil. Meo, on the other hand, is the literal Japanese name for Pluto, or if you prefer Greek over Latin, Hades, the king of the underworld. Now, please feel free to theorize as to what this might mean in the comments. I'd love to hear your ideas. As for me, the quite obvious meaning here is that Rayleigh, especially as a user of Conqueror's Haki, was pretty much a king himself, one of the strongest people in the world. The fact that this is obviously not an epithet he picked for himself suggests to me that he was seen as the king in Roger's shadow, almost as powerful, almost as dangerous. But since Roger was the one who shone the brightest, Rayleigh was the Dark King. Now, I'm just gonna assume you haven't seen all of my analysis videos yet, so please click here to check out my playlists. Also, I wanted to use this moment to say thank you to all my patrons and channel members. You guys really make this all possible. If you want to become part of the channel, get early access to all my videos and other perks, all while supporting my work here, I invite you to become a channel member or check out my Patreon page. Thanks for